Hello and welcome to episode 288 of the Paint All the Minis podcast, the show where you can listen to the widest range of guests that I can convince to chat to me about the tabletop gaming hobby. This week I talked to David about all the reasons why he loves Rangers of Shadow Deep. I won't spoil any of our chat, I'll just say that I also really love Rangers of Shadow Deep, and if you haven't ever played it, then I'm sure most of us have some fantasy minis kicking around that you could use to give it a go, and you can really actually use just any miniatures. Really, there's no real, the mini police or the rules police aren't going to come around and cart you off because you're using fantasy minis for Rangers Shadow Deep. So there's very few excuses to not give it a go. It's a great solo/co-op game, and you can get a downloadable PDF version, and those are available. Don't forget that the fuel for this podcast are interactions and genuine relationships, not advertisements, revenue, or algorithms. So make sure you swing by the Discord. There's a link in the podcast description. We'd all love to hang out with you and see what you've been up to, not just painting and gaming, but anything else that you're interested in also. Don't forget also that if you need to email me, you can contact me, paintalltheminis@gmail.com. We really do hope that you enjoy the show. This one is for Ravis.
Paint all the minis. Paint all the minis that you can. And when you paint your minis, listen to that podcast with Dan Adams, that is.
This recording may be all that's left of me. We've been lost in the jungle for 7 weeks now. Parker was taken by cannibals last week. Jenkins the week before by foul water. Poisonous vipers got the rest the week before that. It's just me now, and I don't know if I'll make it. But wait a second. I think I have a bit of a cell phone signal. Wait a second. I have a cell phone signal. That means I'm saved. I can catch up on Paint All the Minis. Look at that. There's a new painting tutorial, and this guy's using Vallejo Orange Brown. This is amazing. Everything. Oh wait, is that the cannibals again?
Let's have a little bit of tea. British person can't do without tea. So hey, I am here with David. How's it going, mate?
I am so good right now.
Yeah? So good. Tell me why so good.
Because it is the beginning of my weekend, and I'm getting ready to hobby. I got hobby in front of me. Got Dan. I'm on the podcast. I'm feeling good.
Nice. That's awesome. That's really cool. And you mentioned in pre-show that your weekend is Sunday and Monday, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. What's
one of the biggest positives of having that Monday where the majority of people are getting up and going to work and you're still having a little lie-in?
Well, I do have to get going the same as everyone else in the morning. It's just after I drop my daughter off at school, that's when all the potential just kind of lays itself out in front of me for me to ignore completely and just stare at my computer screen.
What does the usual weekend look like for you? Have you got kind of like set things that you do each weekend with your leisure time, or does it vary?
It can vary, but chores are usually the big one. Nothing fun. I'm trying to catch up on stuff throughout the week. Usually, I sometimes get some hobby time in, or a solo game. I'm a big solo gamer. Mm-hmm. But yeah, usually it's a bit of a slog because everyone else is kind of sad because their weekend's ending. So I got to keep up the spirits.
Yeah, I bet it's good though. Like I think I'm having that Monday, and I'd like to do stuff that is usually quite busy. Like if I want to go and watch a certain movie, I reckon watching it like Monday lunchtime would be brilliant because there'd be not a lot of other people around. If you want to go for a hike or something like that, again, same thing. There's probably a lot less people around. So I reckon it's quite cool trying to do some of those leisure things that usually are busy or there's a lot of people around.
Yeah, definitely. We used to do a lot of gaming too on Mondays back in the day, which was great.
Yeah, nice. That's really cool. And you mentioned you got some hobby in front of you. So what hobby have you got in front of you?
I've been working on basically the bestiary for the Hotspots Hinterlands for the BattleTech system.
Right.
So I've been hoarding BattleTech and just getting them primed up and painted.
Talk to me about BattleTech, because BattleTech's a game that I've been aware of for the longest time. And it's literally a case of literally just my own personal kind of tastes that I'm not super into like big battle robots, but that kind of sucks because it seems to have such a big audience and it seems to be so well supported and it's really popular in the US. So talk to us about BattleTech and why you like that.
Yeah, I think it's like the North American Warhammer, really, because it's been around as long as I can remember. I'm 47 years old, and I basically have grown up with it. At school, kids would always be showing off the technical readouts, which are all like just the big digests of the robots. They'd have the pictures, they'd have the stats. So it's like a huge culture around that. It came originally from some Japanese mechs and a few others that they just kind of tossed together. So they have kind of like a iconic look to them, or in the 80s. And it's kind of a game that's never really changed. I think up until recently, they've begun to put out some new rules that are gonna kind of revitalize the system, I guess.
Because it's big, because there's like a really big video game. I actually have the video game, just never really got into it. Tried it a couple of times. I think, the great thing about having a Steam library is it stays there, hopefully forever. I know, there's been contentious people say that they might just pull the plug on everything. But I've had it for the longest time. I've tried it a couple of times, but it's got a really big following, a really big, awesome video game, and I'm always seeing. And am I right in saying that they come pre-painted? Like the miniatures come pre-painted, is that right?
There was an era of that.
Okay.
In the mid 2000s. They called it HeroClix. I imagine you're familiar at least a little bit with HeroClix.
Yeah.
And so they had like a BattleTech line of that, so there was a ton of pre-painted there. But yeah, these days it's all pre-assembled plastics. So you get everything you need out of the box. You get 4 mechs or 5 mechs in a box. And they're already assembled. There's like a little bit of mold lines, maybe like a little nub to scrape off, and then you're pretty much really good to just start painting.
Nice.
So the turnaround time is huge compared to Warhammer.
So give us more of an elevator pitch on it, because we're here to talk about a different game, but it's hex based. It's kind of like maybe 4 to 7 mechs. Would you say that's right, or am I out? And what are the kind of headline features that you like about it?
Well, I have to say that I've never actually played a full game of the proper BattleTech, what they call BattleTech Classic, because it is a super crunchy game. So as a kid, that's the kind of game you dream of, where you get to like have all the granularity. You're filling off little bits on your sheet. You're shooting this specific weapon against that specific point on the enemy. It could take a while to do those. So these days, usually I play what's called Alpha Strike, which is more of a, you could say like a dumbed down system. They have cards with little points that you also fill out, but it's just more of a generalized damage roll, and you can launch a larger force, and it won't take you all day to play.
That's cool. That's nice.
Elevator pitch wise, I think that the big appeal really is just like stomping around in robots. Like that's the whole fun of it.
Yeah. Because they've got different houses, is that right? There's different houses, and the robots belong to the different houses. And so why are they...
They don't actually belong to different houses necessarily. It's more of a, like, you can associate certain mechs with certain houses, but everyone can take anything. There are like official paint schemes, but there's no real strict paint schemes. So you can paint your mechs whatever you want. You just say, I'm either a mercenary or I play for House Davian or this or that. There's a lot of flex in it compared to more something rigid like Warhammer 40k, where you can't say I'm playing Space Marine or Ultramarines, but they're painted like Imperial Fist.
That used to wind me up a little bit, to be honest. Yeah, he's like going, no, it's a Dark Angel. Yeah, but I just wanted to try Ultramarines today. No, that's the Dark Angel. You can't. It's like, oh, okay, all right.
You just can't. No.
So you mentioned that that's the hobby in front of you, right? So how seriously are you going into painting with these mechs?
Pretty seriously. My standards of painting have dwindled quite a bit in my old age. So I'm just happy to slap colors on. I'm not really going for, anything award-winning. Mm-hmm. And there is so much of it that I don't mind actually just speeding through. For a while, I was playing around with acrylic markers, which was a lot of fun, where you could just basically, you could sit around anywhere. You can go visit a relative, just pull out the markers and just start painting, which is pretty great.
Yeah, that is kind of cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Is there anything else on your hobby table, or just BattleTech?
I got some 5 parsecs from home, guys. They got to paint up as well.
Yeah.
A mess of paints. And I think that's about it right now. Yeah, just 5 parsecs from home and BattleTech.
Cool. So you mentioned 2 other games there that you like, BattleTech and 5 parsecs from home. So is there any other games that you could potentially have come on and spoken about today, other than Rangers of Shadow Deep, or is it that's your main 3?
I'd say that's my main 3, honestly, for my most enthusiasm these days.
Nice. And you mentioned BattleTech is something that you've been into for quite a long time, but in terms of 5 parsecs, when did that come on to the gaming table for you?
Shortly after Rangers of Shadow Deep came out. They both kind of rocked around the scene at the same time. So I heard about Rangers of Shadow Deep first, jumped really deep into that. I love the bestiary aspect of that one too, so that was like a big motivation for me, was to build and paint up all the miniatures in the book, like all the little rats and zombies and things.
That's a
5 parsecs is more loosey-goosey, so
yeah.
You want to have a lot of proxies for that one, because you could face off against a multitude of different kinds of forces. So yeah, that one's a little more relaxed.
That's one thing you mentioned there about working through the list of bad people in Rangers of Shadow Deep, and I'm kind of with you on that. I first picked that up in Frostgrave, is that I quite liked having that list of creatures and monsters that could show up, and I quite liked the list of people that you could take, and I quite like that methodical working through, saying, okay, this is going to be my thief, this is going to be my kind of ruffian guy, this is going to be my main wizard, and I like working through the monsters as well, because it's kind of like you have that list, and then you might just see a mini in a store, or you might see something online and think, oh yeah, cool, that's what I want. That's what I want my construct to look like, and I kind of quite like that methodical working through. Are you the same with that? You kind of quite like having that list prepared and you kind of work through in your own time?
Oh, definitely. That's a huge. That's the thing that'll motivate me most, I think, out of any kind of game. Just seeing like a big list of things I can work through. Just start checking off boxes as you go. You get a real sense of accomplishment that way.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of cool. And then when you eventually get all of them done, or you get a bunch of them done, or you get just the creatures you need for maybe the first or second scenarios, it's just kind of nice. You think, oh yeah, okay, everything's ready. And a big factor of Rangers of Shadow Deep for me is the preparing for a scenario, and I guess we'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's like when I get all the stuff that's ready for a scenario, it's like, okay, cool, right, we're ready to go, we can start this now. Not just the creatures, it's the terrain too. But let's get on to Rangers of Shadow Deep then, if we can. So you mentioned that you kind of picked it up around the same sort of time as 5 parsecs from home, but where and when and how did you first hear of Rangers of Shadow Deep?
I was just looking for like solo Frostgrave, and I saw an announcement, I think it was on Facebook, from Joseph McCulloch, and he had just said that he was working on this game called Rangers of Shadow Deep, and he had started a Facebook group, so I just joined in, and I was kind of like waiting for it to launch, and he was like releasing little teasers, and that's when I think he released the bestiary too, so I was already like working on it even before the books came out.
It's really cool, and I'm gonna drop this now. I don't think I've ever dropped it in this show before, but I felt very, very fortunate that when Joe was working on Rangers of Shadow Deep, he sent me like a very, 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 very early kind of prototype version of the first scenario. It was amazing. It was literally just like a Microsoft Word document, no color or anything like that. And I remember playtesting it when I was on vacation in a summer when I was back in England. It was amazing. I just had like some books and some blocks on the kitchen side and just kind of doing stuff. It was really cool to do that. And so when you kind of joined the Facebook group, what was it you were looking for, and what was exciting you about it?
I've always been looking for a solo, basically fantasy adventure game. I grew up in the like satanic panic in North America, so my mom was big into like, if you play D&D, you definitely are a Satanist or something. Yeah. Well, she didn't even believe in hell, so I don't know what she was thinking, but. We're not even Christian, so I'm not sure. She just thought something bad was going to happen if I played D&D. But I had snuck in. I bought a box set of D&D, and I used to sneak in and play it. And it had like a solo adventure you could play through. So it had like a little grid map and little miniatures, and it had like a storyline. You're supposed to have like a group of people to act it all out. So I just had to do it in my head, very quietly, while I was hiding in my room. And I've always been kind of chasing that experience. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so I spent like most of my wargaming time kind of chasing that, because like most people, I got in with Warhammer Fantasy, battles. And, so you have the big grand battles, but you never have like that little granularity with the story until Mordheim came out. And that was cool, but it was all, player versus player. Mm-hmm. And so you didn't really build up like your own personal little story. So that's what I found finally with Rangers of Shadow Deep.
What do you think it was that was making you want to have that solo individual experience as opposed to having either the mass battle or the kind of skirmish versus game?
I really enjoy being by myself and doing things. Like, I'm not a people person, but I do enjoy just having that time for me to just be in my own space with my own creations, running my own imagination without any kind of outside influence.
I'm with you on that. I really like solitude. Solitude is something I really enjoy. And again, same thing, I think you put it really well. It's not that you don't like hanging out with different people, but I think when you just got the time and the space to explore yourself, there's a lot of, I don't know, it's a very calming and fulfilling thing. Not all the time, not every day, not all the time, but I think just having that space, that time, and that thought to just be like, what do I want it to be? What do I think it should be? I think that's really cool, man. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah. Also, for Rangers of Shadow Deep, I love the D20. I know there's some haters out there for the D20, but to me, Rangers of Shadow Deep is the game it is because of the D20. I just want to, it might be contentious, but I want to throw that out there right now.
Yeah. I've played Frostgrave with people, and they like something goofy happens or something strange happens, and my response is to be like, oh my gosh. And then some of the person's response is, "Oh my gosh!" And there's it's the same words, but the tone is very different. So how deep have you gone into that D20, and what is it that makes you like it, and why do you think some of the people might not like it?
Well, I think the best example for both of those things is I played through the intro scenario many times with many people, but the best time of my life was definitely the time that I took a man-at-arms and I ran him against a rat in the very first scenario, and the rat killed him. Because no one saw that coming. You don't think that your man-at-arms is going to die to a rat, but he did. And I think that was awesome. Some people would hate that for sure. Like, there's no way man-at-arms can die to a rat. But to me, that was the best thing ever.
But we all have bad days, right? And
yeah, exactly.
Just immediately made me think of like pretty much every single dungeon crawl video game that I played, where one of the first missions is go to someone's basement and take out some rats. And yeah, I can just imagine being in that scenario, and it's like your dungeon crawling career is over because the giant rat actually got you.
Yeah. So yeah, the unpredictability for me is the winning factor. Never being quite certain. Like, you could take your companions with you, or you could stack the odds, but you never actually know if you're going to survive or not.
Yeah. Which I like. I'm not even going to say like about realism or anything like that, because it's obviously a tabletop game, so it's not really it's not a simulation, it's not realism. But yeah, I quite like the opportunity where anything could happen. Yeah, that's cool, man. Why do you think a lot of games avoid that? Do you think it's because of that swingy nature and the kind of random nature? Do you think a lot of games avoid it because of that?
I don't know if it's just because of that. That could be a factor, but I think most games honestly will just default to D6 because it's very predictable. Everyone understands.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a universal language in dice.
Yeah.
When you look at a D6, you kind of understand what's going to happen. Like, your chances can be good or bad. You kind of understand like the spread of that.
Yeah.
With a D20, it's a huge ball of mystery.
Yeah. Now's a good time to talk about the general themes of Rangers of Shadow Deep. So we kind of like, we've mentioned a few things there indirectly. But if you you're on a bus, you've got 15 minutes to have a conversation with somebody, you're reading a Rangers of Shadow Deep book, and someone says, "Oh, what's that?" What would you say?
I would say it is a solo or cooperative game. I think it's best played cooperatively overall. I think you'll have the most fun doing that with a group of people. Similar to D&D, except for you're playing a very specific story written by a very talented person. So you are playing Joseph McCullough's story, but you're taking a part in it. Mm-hmm. And you're going to build your terrain, you're going to paint your miniatures, which might be not a selling point for everyone. But you're going to have a goal in mind. You're going to play through, the story is going to progress, and you're going to feel a really good sense of accomplishment.
Mm. The biggest thing that drew me to Rangers of Shadow Deep, I think, was the narrative and the setting. So talk to us a little bit about that, and tell me how, or if you're excited about that as much as I am.
I think I would be as excited as you are. I think, at least for me, it's not quite grim dark, but it is very grim. But you have hope. The darkness is there. It's right in front of you. But if you fight hard enough, maybe you will succeed and win. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be there's a lot of sadness and darkness just waiting for you in every adventure.
So the general overarching view is that you're part of a kingdom, and there is other kingdoms around, other areas around that have just gone completely quiet, like they've been taken in shadow in the dark, right? And no one really knows why. And so the start of the whole story is like we're sending some guys out, some scouts, some rangers, whatever you want to call them, to just try and figure out what's going on, right?
Yeah. Your neighboring kingdom, the one that you have the closest ties to, is just it's just silent.
And that's really cool. That's really good. It's a really good story, isn't it? It's just
absolutely.
Okay, why is this? And so it's episodic, I would say. Right, it's kind of like a episodic story, and various different new episodes and different books have come out from time to time. But talk to us about maybe without any spoilers as much as possible, because obviously the intent here is not necessarily the intent, but what would be really cool is if someone's listening along and goes, "Oh, I've never heard of this game," or "That sounds really interesting," I'll pick up for the first time. So how would we start our experience together? Obviously we got the rule book, we've prepared certain things, but is it a list building game? I guess you have a set of companions. So talk to us how our kind of band might be created. How is it created?
If you're doing it solo, you have to kind of think about how you want to project yourself, I think, in the world, or a character you admire. Because maybe you want to do like Aragorn, so you kind of have to think about what can Aragorn actually do, or even like someone like Gandalf, if you want to make a wizard, you have to think about, like what are the skills I need to bring in that I can put on the table, and then what do I need to complement my dude. You have to think about, like who can take some punishment, who can throw some arrows, who's going to be a good boy if you want to bring a dog. Yeah, you just kind of like think about what really inspires me most, and then what's going to help me survive. I think it's the best place to start off with.
So one of the biggest things is kind of creating your ranger, right? Your main guy. And again, I remember having a conversation with Joe about this. I'm very fortunate to have spoken to him quite a few times, and I was like, I kind of saw my ranger, not necessarily like Boromir from Lord of the Rings, but kind of, getting that way, like a warrior guy, and he'd have like maybe not a full shield, but maybe like a buckler, and that'd be on his back, or kind of like on his belt. And then instantly Joe was like, no, I really don't do that. So what I quite like about the game is that people have these different opinions about how this hero is portrayed. So maybe talk about how maybe you might have crafted your own, and what things you were looking for, and what things you thought would be cool in terms of creating a ranger.
The first thing I did was to find a mini that I really wanted to put in a game, but I'd never really found an occasion for. So I had this guy called the Mad Hatter from Black Scorpion Miniatures, and he was just like this crazy looking guy with a blunderbuss.
Oh, nice.
Which was like kind of a tough one to do in Rangers of Shadow Deep, because it's not a game where you carry around a blunderbuss. But I'm like, okay, this guy, I mean, he kind of looks like a wizard. So what if I just loaded him up with the magic bolts?
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I just gave him like 5 shots of magic bolts, and then, some survival skills that kind of reflected a person who's maybe not quite sane, but he's still kind of there.
Yeah, that's cool. And so it's not just that guy. So how would we create his companions? You mentioned it a little bit just a while ago. You said that, think about things that will boost them in other areas. So if this guy's weak at this area, you need someone that's do that. So how is that group crafted? Is it points? Is it money? Is it what's the limit to our list build?
I can't remember the exact limit off the top of my head anymore. It's been a while since I've started Rangers of Shadow Deep, but you have a certain amount of, it's not reputation points, is it? I'm drawing a blank on that one. Okay. But you do have a certain amount of points you can put into your companions. If you're starting off solo, you get a greater amount, so you can build up to 7 companions, and then you can choose from the guys who are a little more competent to the guys who are definitely not competent whatsoever, but could be good if you needed to put someone in front of you.
I think, I always a guy, I call him the key turn. the guy you're just going to send
Yep.
out and be like, hey, why don't you just go over there and explore that kind of area? And or me? Yeah, you go. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Looks a little bit dangerous. No, it's fine. Don't worry. You go over there.
Yeah.
So I accept the turnkey, one of those guys, right? Which I guess could be a dog, but I'd feel it's weird how my brain works. I wouldn't want to do that to a dog, but a fellow human, that's fine. You can
Oh yeah,
go.
definitely. Yeah.
That's cool. So can you remember how your first party was crafted in addition to your blunderbuss wielding wizard guy?
Yeah, I definitely had a man-at-arms. I had an archer. I had a barbarian. I had a dog. And I think I just used recruits for the rest.
Nice. So
For
once,
yeah, like a little bit arranged.
So
What's that? Sorry.
Once we've got our list, once we've got our kind of group, and once we're kind of sent out into the shadow to kind of figure out what's happening, like what are we doing? So talk to us about the episodic nature. Talk to us about the kind of mission structure. Like how do we know what's happening? How is it introduced, and how does that scenario play out?
It steers very nicely because you get the narrative introduction. So you have a little story to read to figure out why you're there, and then you have the table setup. So it's going to give you the list of what you need to put on the table. So let's say you're starting off the first mission. You're going to have 5 buildings, and I think you have the option to have like a little river, a little bridge. And either you add some personality to it, so you can put some, foresty bits or some little town crops and things like that. And it's going to tell you where you need to place your enemies and what cards you need to have over to the side to draw from.
It's cool. It's good to have that little story narrative. It's something that I really, really enjoy. It's a good opportunity to kind of get immersed, and played it both as solo and I played it also co-op. And I never like to do it myself because I don't think I'm dramatic enough with my voice and things. But it's really good to read that scenario out, and someone's just reading that scenario out. And, okay, this is our opportunity to get deep into it. So everything's set up. Is there any particular mission or scenario that kind of jumps out to you as being one that you've really enjoyed in the past?
I always like the second one where you have to go into a tower, and it's kind of like a speed run. And as you go into different rooms, you might encounter a different situation. So it's never quite the same one twice. It's always fun to play with a group of people.
Mm-hmm. And so what is it that makes it random in nature? Like, because is it something that's D20 focused, as you mentioned before? Like, how is it random? How does that randomness occur?
I don't remember off the top of my head now. I haven't played that one in a little while. But I think it's card driven when you open up the door.
And that's good, isn't it? When something is different, not necessarily different each time, but when something has that variety, it's something that's really, really cool. And how does, if you talk about mechanics now, we've got our group set up, we've got everything that we need, we've got our terrain set up, we kind of know the narrative. Talk to us about the turn structure. Who does what, when, and how?
Okay, so it's always kind of a rigid setup. So you always go with your ranger first, and often you can activate with a few companions, especially if you're playing solo, within a certain range. They revised that one. Originally, though, it was within a certain range. So you had to have like your homies kind of hanging out with you when you're ready to just kind of gang rush the enemy. Mm-hmm. Then the enemy phase goes, and they get to do all their turns. And then you get to finish off with the rest of your companions to try to mop up and survive where you can.
Mm-hmm. That's mostly like Frostgrave, same thing. Like, yeah, same thing. You can activate your main guy, and then if there's other people a thing, and then the enemy goes, and then everybody else. And so when you say activate, what you're doing when you activate? Can you remember kind of like the options that we have when we're activating?
You definitely can move, and then you can move again half speed, or you can fight, or you can do one of the objectives. I believe is the other one. And yeah, so if you move into combat by moving close to a unit, you're locked in combat. If enemies are trying to move past you, you can also do that. So you can even activate, even if it's not your turn, just to kind of like shuffle in if someone's coming a little too close to you, and the enemies will do it the same. So it's not quite as rigid as just, I go, you go. You still have a little bit of like countermeasures you can do.
Mm-hmm. And what sort of stuff are we doing? you know, you mentioned about the tower there. So what sort of things are we doing in these scenarios, and what sort of interactions do we have with the environment?
Yeah, typically you have objectives. So you're in the first one, you're looking for clues, which is a big theme. Often you're looking for clues. You're trying to find something, and then you're trying to usually just get off the board. You're not usually sticking around to kill everything in sight. You usually have a goal. You want to get in there, you want to do your thing, and then you want to get out.
And who we bumping into?
All sorts of bad guys. You might find the giant rat who kills you in one blow. You might have the Shadow Knight, who never has ever seemed to do anything worthwhile in his entire life. For me, they always die at the drop of a hat. They look really scary, and then you end up fighting them, and it's just nothing at all. Yeah, the troll is a lot of fun when you find the troll, and the ogres are always a good time.
Mm-hmm. And what's your experience of kind of like, is it difficult? Is it a walk in the park? Can it be either? You know, like kind of like how is the game unfolded, and what your feelings when you're playing these scenarios?
Yeah, unless the D20 is particularly cruel, typically I'd say it's pretty easy overall on the default mode. So yeah, originally when they released Rangers of Shadow Deep, people were complaining it was like just a little bit too easy. So Joe had to add some difficulty levels basically to bump up the enemies just to make things a little more challenging. So you get the option. You can kind of take like the easy story mode, or you can add a slog more of enemies just to gank you up.
Mm-hmm. And are we finding loot during the game? Are we leveling up after scenarios? Do our guys get injured? Do they get fatigued? What happens if they die? Like, what happens kind of between scenarios?
Yeah, the loot one is kind of, sometimes you find things like a very specific item. So that's the one loot that you can roll on immediately, like the Aventine sword. Or there's ones that you're going to carry with you, and then at the end of the mission, or the scenario, you're going to roll on the tables to see what you found. For leveling up, everyone gains a little bit of experience from successfully making it through a mission. So as long as you didn't end up dying from your injury roll, then you get at least a little bit for your companions, or a little bit experience for your rangers, depending on what objectives you completed and what enemies you killed. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to spend those points sometimes to build up your characters, or you're going to boost up a stat, or sometimes I think that's actually the only things. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's right.
And do you generally like that? You know, when you're part of playing games, do you like the kind of the time between missions and the loot and the leveling up? Is that something that you enjoy, the bookkeeping, or not?
Yeah, I honestly wish there was a little more. I like it a lot. For me, the in-between game time is some of the best time. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Rangers of Shadow Deep is a little bit light on that. You still get the narrative to read through, and sometimes you get to roll up some experience. But and find your treasures. Roll on tables is always a good time.
Yeah, and so let's talk about the rule book for a second, because the rule book is something that I really enjoy. I was fortunate to get the deluxe version of the rule book. And there's certain things that I like about it, but do you own the same deluxe rule book? And if so, what is it that you like about it? Or even just the general book's really nice as well. Like, do you like just thumbing through it?
Yeah, my book has a very special backstory. You see, a long time ago, there was this podcast called Paint All the Minis, and they had a Patreon, you see, and you could pay money into the Patreon, and then you get put into like this little lottery system.
This is true. We did.
And then the guy, Dan Adam, he would spin the wheel, and then all the names would go by, and then every once in a while, it would be my name, which was pretty exciting. And the guy there, Dan Adam, he asked me what I wanted. I'm like, I'm really into this game, Rangers of Shadow Deep. He's like, oh, yeah, I'll get you the book. I'm like, oh, sweet. I guess I had the PDF, which was pretty good. But, yeah, the print on demand from Wargame Vault is what I got. And I still use that one.
That's cool.
Because it's got a lot of meaning to me.
Yeah, I'm just amazing to have you say that, mate. Thank you for that. It's something, yeah. I remember those times, and I was very, very uneasy with it, with Patreon. I was just taking money. I don't want to take money from people, and yeah, but having that wheel, that's a shout from the past. I haven't thought that for a long time. But that was really cool, wasn't it? We had to have like a big wheel.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, what do you want? That's awesome. That's really cool. And that's what you got, man. That's awesome. I completely forgot about that. So thank you for recalling it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is one of my treasured possessions, for sure. Absolutely.
That's cool. One of the biggest things I really like about that rulebook is the artwork, especially the front cover, the main kind of piece of art, or maybe even the front cover and also the first page that you see, where there's a ranger. Like, do you know that picture? Do you want to talk us through that picture?
I don't have it in front of me. What I'm seeing in my head is a guy with his back turned to you.
Yes.
And he has a sword in one hand and a severed head in the other.
Correct.
And you're like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah, really, really cool. I think that's a really vivid image that really brought me into the game world there. Like you're saying, the guy's not even facing you. He's got his sword out and a severed head, and it's like, who's that guy? What's he doing? Really cool. That kind of evoked a lot of fantasy kind of excitement within me. It's really cool, and just the artwork throughout is something that's really cool. Even just kind of scribbles of different weapons and different artifacts and all that kind of stuff. I really enjoy the artwork in it. It's something that's really, really cool. So talk to us about I wouldn't say they're expansion. I guess they are, but expansions. I would say new chapters. It's not just that one rule book. There's a lot of subsequent chapters that have been added on after the fact, right? So, how into those have you been? Is that something that you've been up with every time a new one's come out? Have you invested in that, or have you just kind of stuck with the main ones that are in the main rule book?
I was keeping up for a while, but only by purchasing. I couldn't keep up with it playing. Eventually. The gaming group I was playing with, where we made it the farthest, fell apart, and then I would restart every once in a while a solo game. So I kind of figured I'll just stop buying the expansions until I get the time where I can actually just start playing through them all. Yeah. So I think I went through like the last trilogy that he did, through the Sands, and then I just kind of put a pin on it for now.
Yeah,
until I get caught up.
And that's the thing, isn't it? That's the great thing about gaming, is that they're not going anywhere. It's like I mentioned Steam before, that could just be taken away from us and we can't play our games anymore. But if you have the book, or even with DriveThruRPG as well, that PDF is available, and it's something that's really cool. So what are the things would you say that you like the most about Rangers of Shadow Deep? What would be the things that kind of keep you interested and keep you drawn to it?
I'd say definitely the story overall. I like the fact that, like, if I don't play it for 2 years, as long as I have my character sheet and I kind of remember where I left off, you can just pick it back up again. You can just like read through, like, okay, I know what's going on. I got my characters; they're all up to date. I'll just put out the next mission and go for it.
That's really cool. Is there anything else?
Because
go on, Go ahead.
Oh, just like say in like 5 parsecs from home. It's my other favorite game, and that one is all personally driven. So you're always rolling on tables for procedural generation. You curate your character sheet still, but you could definitely, if you put it away for 2 years, you'll kind of forget where you left off. Like your story is kind of gone. With Rangers of Shadow Deep, the story is always there in the books.
And is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you really enjoy about Rangers of Shadow Deep?
I don't know. I don't think I've iterated just how fun it is in a group, honestly. It's just so much fun. You get 4 people together and you just play through the same story, and it's a great time. I really miss those days of my game group.
There's something that's different when you're playing a co-op game. Some of my best gaming experiences have been when I've been playing co-op, either playing Journeys in Middle-earth with my wife, or playing things like Warhammer Quest Silver Tower with some friends. And so co-op games are different, again, because it's fun playing competitive games, when you kind of face off against somebody. But playing co-op and sharing a story, there's a different feeling, right? And what do you like about that? What do you like about sharing that story with friends?
Because you get more memories, I think, created. You remember the time where your friend just would constantly try to get all the spider cocoons opened up, and every time it was a zombie, and eventually he died because he was greedy.
Yeah, it's cool. And if you get the right friendship group, I completely forgot this one, but another co-op game that I really like is V Commandos, as it was, or V Sabotage, as it is now. And I had a friend, a colleague, that he hadn't played any tabletop games or board games at all, really, and it was just we didn't really do much over a few holidays from work, and so we used to come over pretty much every single day, and we just kind of start up a mission, and it was just really good fun. And one thing I really like about V-Sabotage is that, you know, the interaction and genuine cooperation that you need to have in order to be effective. And I really loved those conversations of like, what do you think we should do now? And just listening to what he thought, and I gather that was reciprocated, because he was like, well, what do you think we should do now? And there was never anyone trying to kind of overshadow the other. It was a genuine case of what is the best thing to do here. And I really liked listening to him and going, yeah, mate, that sounds good, let's do that. And there's other times where maybe I had a good idea and he'd be like, yeah, that's a good idea, let's do that. So then that would only occur in co-op games, right? So that's cool. I really do enjoy that co-op experience.
Yeah. Or if the skill level is quite different. So if you're an experienced gamer and you're playing with people who've never really gamed before, the cooperative experience is very nice to kind of raise all ships, basically. So
yeah.
You guide them through, they feel like they're making participation, they get to, like, as you said, discuss the game.
Yeah.
And you really get to pick up some skills.
I find that difficult at times. I'm at that point with my daughter. We play the recent game from Days of Wonder, the Battle of Hoth, which is the Command and Colours family game. Memoir 44 was one of them, so they have like a Star Wars skin on that called Battle of Hoth. And so that's not a co-op game, it's a competitive game, but I play with my daughter. It's like you don't want to tell them what to do, but then you can kind of see them make a decision, and you're like, do you want to do that? So when do you step in? How do you step in? Do you step in at all? It's always like a delicate balance, because you don't, and especially I think that kind of comes through into co-op games, because you never want to feel like you're trying to telling people what to do. You never really want to feel like you're trying to be like the alpha guy and everyone should do exactly all the things that you want. And so yeah, sometimes with that co-op environment, it's a little bit delicate, because you don't want to overpower the situation, but then equally you don't want to make basic errors. How are you with that? Are you very laid back? Are you quite comfortable with people coming up with terrible ideas and enacting those terrible ideas on it, or do you do something different?
It can vary, I think. Yeah, sometimes I know I've thought about it in the past. I've definitely have railroaded some people, and I try not to do that.
Yeah.
Especially if they're new and they don't really seem to be invested, then you just kind of start making decisions.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily the best habit to have, for sure. But as long as they seem to be invested in the game and or want to discuss what's happening, I think it's a lot easier to play off of, because that is the nature of cooperative spirit.
Yeah.
Is to discuss the plan and then kind of act it out. So if someone isn't really participating in that, I think it's a little bit too easy to railroad them.
I think sometimes you've got to let it go as well, and sometimes you just got to be like, internally, I don't think this is a good idea, but okay, let's just do that, because I don't want to seem like it's me all the time. And then you have to keep your mouth shut at the end of the game, because if it all goes bad and you're like, I told you so, told you it wasn't a good idea, you can't really go around like that, right?
Yeah.
Nobody likes that guy. That's cool, man.
Oh.
So as we kind of think about, rounding out the Rangers Shadow Deep, we're very fortunate we got some more time to talk about some different things here. This doesn't often happen, but definitely kind of awesome points of Rangers Shadow Deep. Is there anything else that kind of you really want to kind of mention that's really awesome about Rangers of Shadow Deep? And also, to round it out completely, when is Rangers of Shadow Deep at its best? So is there anything else we haven't talked about that you really like? And also, when is Rangers of Shadow Deep at its best?
I can't think of anything else that's awesome about Rangers of the Shadow Deep. Do you have any suggestions?
No, I think I've mentioned all the things that I like.
Yeah.
The episodic nature, the narrative, thinking about your ranger, naming your ranger, thinking about how you want him to look, the discussions with other people. That's a very fun memory. I'm very fortunate to speak to Joe regularly, and we always kind of talk about these different things. And to have the person that created the game say that he disagreed with how he should fake the ranger, that's quite nice, because I like that. Because the easiest thing for him to do would be like, yeah, that's fine. But then, like the co-op experience that we just talked about there, he could just be like, oh yeah, that's fine. But in his head, be like, no. But the fact that the person that made the game was like, no, the Rangers don't look like that, Dan. You're an idiot. I was like, okay, it's very true. That's really cool. Yeah, so episodic,
especially coming from his gentle voice, that must have been quite telling.
So I think I mentioned all the things. The terrain, building a terrain, just the care that you can take before the game. I really like that. You mentioned it as well, how the time between games is really interesting. So I quite like not necessarily being the DM or the GM, but I quite like looking at the next scenario, painting the terrain, getting the terrain ready, taking that time to make everything look nice, and then inviting other people into that experience. I kind of quite like that. I kind of liken it to inviting somebody over for dinner, you know, and the same sort of thing. You think about what they might like for dinner, you think about inviting them over, what they might like to drink, a kind of that same level of care, but using it in the game situation. I quite like the rule book, the artwork, the extra books that you can pick up that you kind of add to the story, the expanding narrative, not knowing really what's going on, you know, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned all of it. It's something that's really cool. So
your list actually did remind me of one other thing I do love about Rangers of Shadowdeep, and that's the card mechanic. So when you have a certain amount of cards that you choose, like in, say, Ace of Hearts to Queen of Hearts, and each one of those is going to have an event that happens at the end of every turn, or perhaps every second turn. And so you never know what's going to happen. You kind of know what's going to happen, but not when it's going to happen. So as you play through, you end your turn, you flip the card, and then something awesome or terrible happens. Usually terrible, sometimes awesome. And I do love that mechanic as well.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a really, really good game, and it's not like too many others, really. I can't think of too many others that are similar. Have you got any other games that kind of like, you know, are in the same sort of ballpark as Rangers of Shadowdeep?
Typically, people compare it most to 5 Leagues from the Borderlands, which is another big one. But in their hearts, they're kind of a different game with the same theme. Because 5 Leagues from the Borderlands follows you're creating your own story, while Rangers of Shadowdeep is you're playing Joseph's story. And you have more of a linear outcome, basically, for Rangers of Shadowdeep, while 5 Leagues from the Borderland, you're just rolling on charts and you're building your story from there. So you never know what's going to happen.
We got a little bit more time, which is awesome. So do you want to talk about 5 Parsecs from Home? Because that was another game that you mentioned that is one of your big 3.
Yeah, it's the only game I've ever started playing before I could even finish reading the rule book. I was waiting to pick up my daughter from kindergarten. And so I was sitting on the table, I had downloaded the PDF, and I started reading it. And just the chart after chart of things to roll on and create your characters just got me super excited. So I just immediately had to roll up some characters and then play a battle right before I picked her up, which is the only time in my life I've ever just straight up played a game, like from date of purchase to on the table.
So what was it about it that made you want to do that?
Yeah, definitely. So when you create your characters, you're rolling on a background, a motivation, and I can't remember the third one. There's 3 charts though, and so as you roll them, it kind of gives you stats and bonuses. You get items to roll on for tech charts and things like that, so you can get your gear up. So you're kind of like starting from just a very blank slate to something that can be wildly different every single time. And that was the biggest selling point for me, is just because I love random tables. That is my crack in wargaming. Cool. Mordheim, everything like that. I just love those tables.
Yeah, I like it because I like the roll in on the charts, because a little bit like Forrest Gump, you're never sure what you're going to get, right? Is that in the best scenarios that I've had in those sorts of games, 5 Parsecs being one of them also, is that you might get something that you never would naturally choose yourself. Now, if you got like a list of 1 to 20 and it's like pick one, you might always find yourself falling into the same sort of class or the same sort of race, the same gender, the same motivations, which is what you were talking about before, about there's a motivation for these characters when you roll. It just you just end up saying, okay, well, this is what I've got given, and then I tend to like lean into it. And it's like, okay, well, I wouldn't have chosen that, but let's go with that, and let's lean into it, and let's make that a really positive thing. So that's cool. And so you like those tables. So when did that first start? When did you first encounter these kind of random roll-in tables, and what is it about it that you like so much about it?
Yeah, I think maybe it was from like reading like role-playing manuals and things. You see certain charts you can roll on, and then Mordheim, because I started playing Mordheim when it came out back in 2000. And that one, you know, you have your exploration table and you roll on that. And I always thought it was very cool. I like that random aspect. And then, Rangers of Shadowdeep has it a bit too when you find, you know, different items and things. But yeah, it's just, I love random elements to build a story in my head, because my mind is always looking for connections. So when I start like piecing random things together, I'm like, this doesn't make sense unless it does. And then you start thinking about the threads to follow. So you kind of build up a lot of story before the game even begins.
So it's important to note at this point that 5 Parsecs from Home is similar to Rangers of Shadow Deep, but it's more of a sci-fi experience, and it's a little bit less episodic, as you mentioned, and it's a little bit more make your own experience from it, because you roll in certain missions, you roll in certain aspects of the game, so it's a little bit more random in nature as opposed to being more linear, right?
Absolutely, yeah. In the beginning, it didn't even have an end. Like, there was no way to say it was over. You just kept playing it for as long as you wanted to, and then you're done. And then Ivan realized you had to, like, put some, at least, like, conditions. So, like, you play this many successful missions, and you can say you won the game, sort of thing.
But it's quite cool that there's not that initial limit, you're not getting told when to start it and when to stop it. That's something that I always really like about the original Gloomhaven, is that there was a limit on it in some ways, because the game could continue, but the character is retired. I quite like the thought of that, and that's really cool. I never got to that point myself, but each character has like an end goal, an end mission, and you could complete that mission before the actual campaign is finished. So you might have your best guy who's really strong, and he goes, "Yeah, cool, that's me, man. I've got what I want. I'm going to retire now." And then you'd have to like get a whole new guy in to finish out the campaign, which is something that's really cool.
That's awesome.
And so talk about minis for 5 Parsecs from Home, because you mentioned when you were building your ranger that you kind of had a miniature that you had in mind to create your kind of wizard character. So where are you getting your minis from 5 Parsecs from Home?
I have hoarded, as you could imagine, quite a few miniatures. No. And I was kind of I lean into like sci-fi, but I never had a reason to use any of them.
Okay.
So I always thought they were very cool looking, but never had that game that I wanted to play the miniatures with. So once 5 Parsecs came out, I finally found a home for just about anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, because you're rolling randomly, you just never really know. So I just roll up the characters, you look at what they got, and like, okay, who matches up? So you dig out your lead pile and you start rooting through. You're like, okay, yeah, this guy fits. Like, she looks pretty good for that role. Absolutely.
It is cool when you do that, and we're quite fortunate now that there's that whole space with sci-fi and fantasy skirmish / story games, that there's a lot of complementary games, and there's a lot of complementary mini lines, right? If anyone's listening along and you're not really involved in this sort of genre, these two genres, there's two really good games that jump out to me that are really good games in their own right, but also give you a lot of tools, a lot of equipment and things to get involved in other games, and that is Core Space and also Maladin. Core Space is a sci-fi kind of skirmish campaign mission game, and Maladin is the fantasy version of that. Have you heard of those two games?
I have, yeah. They used to joke that the Core Space was the starter set for 5 Parsecs.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard much of Maladin. I'm not familiar with that except for by name.
Yeah. And so Battle Systems is a company that make those, and the key thing with Battle Systems, it is very fleshed out in terms of the offering of equipment. So you get like neoprene game mats, you get a whole bunch of terrain and items and crates and machines and minis and all sorts of different things. It's like a kind of those Lego boxes you used to get as a kid, where it's not one particular Lego set, but there's a whole bunch of Lego bricks in there, and like a little menu of maybe 20 different things you can build with the bricks out of the box, right? It's that kind of experience. But it's also really important to note that both of those games are really good, but it also is a gateway into different things, right? And even just like pegs, little plastic pegs that you can keep track of certain things, a whole bunch of stuff that you can kind of put in there.
Oh, nice.
So what would be your kind of favorite experiences with 5 Parsecs from Home then? What is it apart from just rolling on tables? You mentioned that you rolled on tables and played a game, so what is it about that game that holds your interest?
Because I'm a simple man, and if things get too complicated, then I just get confused. So the game itself is like very simple. Sometimes the battles are almost anticlimactic because they're so easy. Other times you kind of get overwhelmed, so you get overrun. Nowadays in the 3rd edition, there's a lot of battle events that can happen in the middle that can just throw you completely by surprise. But when you enter into before you even get into the battle, you never really know what to expect. So I'd say that's a big selling point for me. Mm-hmm. And then usually the resolution of the battle is very quick, which is great for solo gaming.
Mm-hmm. And is that something that you've played predominantly solo, or have you played with others on that one?
Yeah, predominantly solo. I don't think it plays as well cooperatively as Rangers of Shadow Deep. I think Rangers of Shadow Deep is the better co-op game. I think it's too personal, like in my mind, 5 Parsecs. I think it's still more your story, and then adding someone else's random story into it can be, for me, a little bit jarring. I don't know why, but
cool. That's really nice. That's awesome.
However, I am right now, like the miniatures I'm painting for 5 Parsecs are for Planetfall, which is the newest standalone game based on 5 Parsecs from Home, and I'm doing it for the Hobby Homies global campaign.
Right.
So, yeah, so it's a colony building game. So you sit down on a planet, and you don't roll up a crew like you do in 5 Parsecs from Home. You choose what kind of guys you want to bring in, scientists, scouts, or troopers. And then you have resources to build from, and you have to explore a little map and build up more resources and can unlock technology. And so they created it into a global campaign. So everyone's participating in their story, basically.
Nice.
Which is a lot of fun.
That's cool. So talk to us. You mentioned Hobby Homies there. So what's that? Let people know about that.
They are some Australian podcasters who they're a lot of fun, honestly. If you like guys who are big jokesters, like to have a laugh, they don't take things too seriously, and they're very enthusiastic on pretty much any independent war game. Then they are the fellows to check out.
And they've got a Patreon channel. Is that something that you're part of?
Yeah, I'm part of their Patreon channel.
And YouTube also?
Yeah.
So
they're big.
What sort of stuff would we see there? What sort of stuff can we interact with?
The one of the two guys has become pretty busy in life, so they've slowed down now, but their big current focus is to take a game and just focus entirely on it for 2 months. They play the game, they talk about it, and then they do a big battle report afterwards. So they try to focus on one very specific thing. They did Blackouts. They've done Full Spectrum Dominance this year, and then 5 Parsecs Planetfall is their current one. And then one of the guys, Fox, because he still has a big interest in YouTubing, has another show called Tabletop of the Morning. So every morning it's usually between 5 to 10 minutes, he's just going to deep dive into a certain war game topic or some new thing that's coming out, his thoughts on it, whatnot, or news that might be happening. Like the pre-painted GW terrain that everyone was abuzz about for a little bit.
Yeah, I saw that a while ago. I kind of a little bit turned off because it's probably going to be a crazy amount of money, because it's a crazy amount of money anyway. But talk to us about that. Talk to us about it, because the technology behind that is pretty interesting, right?
Yeah, I've only heard things because I just don't care about GW at the moment. I cannot bring myself to want to know anything. So I'd only heard it third person, but honestly, it sounds cool. I think they should do it. I know it's going to be atrociously expensive, but I personally hate painting terrain, so I think it's an awesome idea.
Yeah, because it's not just even pre-painted terrain. It's like a new printing method where they actually print things onto plastic terrain. And so even the screens that are on the terrain and different things will have stuff. It's I forget exactly what it is, but it's maybe UV printing. I think they put certain chemicals onto the plastic and then they use ultraviolet, something like that. I watched a video on it a while ago, but I'm kind of the same as you. It's that's kind of cool, but it's not really my kind of cup of tea, right?
I think Archon Studios also does it. I think that's what I heard. There's another company that was doing it before GW, and it's the same technique.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm aware, it's like a UV curing ink, I guess, that gets into the plastic or something. Yeah. I think it's very cool, but also I don't care. So.
Yeah, and it's not poo-pooing it, saying it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's really amazing, but I just the amount of money you have to pay for that. And also, do we really actually need that? But I have to wonder about what the next kind of advances are going to be in our hobby. There's a time then we didn't have contrast paints. That they're a really cool addition, and you kind of think about the plastic niches that we have, and you think how could it get any better than this? But it obviously is going to. There's going to be certain iterational leaps that we have at certain times. But let's talk about you. You've been hiding your light under a bushel a little bit, because it's not just playing games that you do. You're involved in podcasting and different bits. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, I Ivan Sorensen, the guy who wrote 5 Parsecs from Home, and I do a podcast twice a month, every second Wednesday and every fourth Monday. It's always a live stream, so people are welcome to hop on and chat. And we just talk about whatever we could think of last minute, really. Though sometimes we have guests and things like next month we're going to have a YouTuber called Veiled Space, who is also a video game designer, it turns out. And he wrote a little bounty hunter module for 5 Parsecs from Home. Mm-hmm. And Modifius decided they really liked it, so they're going to publish it. So, I mean, that sounds really cool to me. I don't know anything about it, but we're going to have a little chat with the guy. And yeah, mostly we want to fill space, basically. So people are sitting there, they're painting, or they're driving, or they're commuting, or they're doing something that isn't hobby related, but they'd rather be. So they just want to listen to hobby topics. That's what I usually do. And I just want to contribute at least like an hour to an hour and a half of that for someone.
So how did you get into that? How did you initiate that?
I started off as a YouTuber because I wanted to make videos. I was watching a lot of Tabletop Minions. And so I wanted to try my hand at like painting guides and bat reps and things, but I wasn't particularly good at it. So I just kind of had this channel hanging around, not really doing much. And then one day I just asked Ivan if he'd be interested in doing like a little Q&A session, like a podcast. He's like, actually, I could just do a podcast. And then so we did it. It was about a year and a half ago now. And it's been regular. We just stuck with it, which is kind of amazing.
Do you enjoy it?
Yeah. Even if I'm super tired, like driving home from work, I have to drive home from work on Wednesday and immediately get everything set up and just podcast. It always feels like it's going to be such a chore, but by the time I get into it, it's a blast. I always feel better.
It's cool. I just like to listen to people, so it's something that I really like. Are you kind of the same? Do you kind of like just quite listen to people's opinions and figure out what they think
actually,
about things?
Sometimes we have guests, like we had Peachy on, and I'll just start like tuning out. Because to me, I'm already just listening to a podcast, so I kind of forget I'm there.
Yeah.
I have to kind of focus.
Yeah, I feel really fortunate.
But I love listening.
I think of this as a podcast it's a podcast that I want to listen to. But the good thing is, I'm involved. I'm the guy that gets to ask the questions, and maybe I could ask better questions at various times. But I just like that interaction. It's so interesting hearing about different people's stories. So tell us about where we can find it. You know, where can we find it? Where can we go? How can we listen to it?
It is, thanks to Matthew from Bedroom Battlefields. It's on all the podcast places that I don't even know about. I guess Podbean and Spotify and everything. My main thing is YouTube, so I always host it on YouTube, and Twitch, because I have a Twitch channel. Mm-hmm. And the live streaming service I do will go to both. So you could follow on Twitch or YouTube, and it's called the Bad Internet Friends Podcast.
That's really cool. What would you say is your favorite thing about that streaming and podcasting and interviewing? What's your favorite thing? What do you like about it most?
And I really like being able to talk to people, to hear their stories when we have guests. That's a lot of fun. But I think the biggest thing for me is just knowing that I'm contributing something as well. I'm not just taking.
Yeah. It's
because I spend a lot of time listening to like a lot of content, and that was always my like biggest motivation to begin with to get into the YouTubing. Is just there's stories out there that people aren't telling that I wanted to tell.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's cool, man. We're kind of birds of a feather in that regard. There's so many great people that are doing like loads and loads of hard work. You think about Ivan Sorensen in the background, you know, he's worked really hard to create, 5 Parsecs from Home and 5 Leagues from the Borderlands. There's a lot of graft in there, and there's a lot of interesting things there that maybe people aren't discussing, which you should be, and that's kind of cool, man. And giving something back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like that. That's cool. Is there any other podcasts or YouTube channels and that thing? You mentioned quite a few times that you like to get involved in that sort of content. So is there any other kind of anything else you want to shout out, something that you like listening to that maybe we can go away and listen to too?
Yeah, definitely. As mentioned, the Hobby Homies, Bedroom Battlefields, of course. You gotta listen to Bedroom Battlefields. Especially, I've been missing it constantly at the end of the month, but just everyone calling in and telling their stories, their hobby progress, is like hugely motivating.
Yeah.
It's most of this year has been terrible for me hobby wise, but just hearing other people's stories made me feel a little better. So I've really appreciated that. Those are the big ones for me. There's like a little channels I'll watch, like because I'm into BattleTech Aces and Alpha Strike. There's a guy, GCZ but I can't remember his YouTube channel name. Unfortunately, I'm really bad for that because I listen to everything while I drive or I'm working, so I don't necessarily see people's names.
I'm like that with my books now because I read all my books on Kindle. I read it every day for like at least 90 minutes. And yeah, if someone says what I've been reading, I'm like, don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
So many things. They're good though. Loads of amazing books, but yeah, I just never get through. But that's cool, man. That's all our time. It's been really great to talk to you, and it's been really cool to kind of reconnect and get involved with each other a little bit more. And it's been an absolute pleasure, David. Thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it. And
thank you. I'm just glad after, what was it, 6 years, this finally happened.
Yeah. It's the way it goes. I actually rehashed. I had this list of hundreds and hundreds of people, and kind of like, as you kind of go through things, you're trying to, it's quite difficult actually. I'd say that the thing that I find the most difficult with what I do is juggling a diary, trying to find holes. That this person could come on this time, and especially living where I live and living where you live, it's very difficult sometimes to kind of arrange that. So apologies that it dropped off. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't personal.
Well, I'm exactly the same way. I got a huge list of things that I just never accomplished for our podcast yet. But 6 years from now, maybe I will.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it, and let's talk again in less than 6 years. Okay.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Bye bye. So there you go, episode 288 all wrapped up there. Sorry for being a little bit subdued in the intro there. We got told just this week that one of our Discord group members, Ravis Berry, had unfortunately passed away. And it's been kind of affecting me a little bit over the last few days, because he was such a positive, well-meaning, open and given person. And so it's always a little bit of a shock when you hear someone that that you've spent time with, some paint hangouts and different things, has kind of passed away. And I'm sure all of us, or a lot of us, have been in similar positions in our life, and it's never easy. It's not the first time something like this has happened for me personally, but it's just really sad, isn't it? It's just really sad when you've got somebody who's young and positive and seems to have so much to give to whoever they bump into their lives, in their jobs, in their relationships, in their family life. And for that to kind of stopped, and anything that could potentially happen has happened. It's always a bit of a kick in the gut. And I'm quite far away from it. Never met him personally face to face, but spoke to him extensively on our Discord server, paint hangouts and different games and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really sad news. So if you knew Ravis, if you knew Barry on our Discord server, then make sure you just take some time to think about the positive interactions that you had with him. And really sobering. Really, it kind of sucks. Not really much else to say other than make sure you check in with your group of friends and your group of acquaintances and make sure they're okay. And especially if you've not heard from them from a while, then just check in, make sure they're okay, and don't wait, because you never know that those conversations might be the last conversations, or you never know if that person might be feeling certain things, and just your message could be a little bit of a ray of sunlight for that individual. But anyway, apologies for being a little bit down on that one, and I don't want to kind of drag it out and kind of turn it into anything else, but just really sad. Such a great guy, so much positivity, so many caring and giving things. I don't want to list through all the caring and giving moments that he's had on the Discord server. Just something that's just really, really sad. So and if you're feeling similar things or have been feeling similar things recently in the past, a kind of huge level of empathy for that. And we have our mental health chat on our Discord server that you can drop by, and I feel really confident that you could literally say whatever you wanted to or needed to on that group, and there would be no judgment and there'd be no anything. So if there's something you need to share, something you need to get off your chest, then definitely use that as a forum. Or you can always message me privately. I'm not an expert, can't say that I'll be able to help in any other way other than just listening and showing compassion for a fellow human being. But don't be on your own, don't be alone, because you're not the reality that we create in our brain is radically different from a reality that could be created if we feel connected to other people around us. But anyway, let's try and move on. Hobby stuff. Not really too much hobby stuff happening for me because like the World Cup is happening. So the Soccer World Cup, the Football World Cup is happening. So I'm mostly watching that with my free time. Let's go over to the table. Still finishing my Silence Men. I'm just moving on to like some last little details. The swamp bases are done. The rims of the bases are done. I'm just moving on to like little details like they've got these little daggers that they have, so I'm doing like a little gold kind of hilt to the daggers and little buttons and different bits and pieces that kind of pop. That's what I've been doing hobby-wise. I mentioned in the last post-ramble that I've done some priming, so I'm quite excited to finish off this unit and then decide what I'm gonna paint. Yeah, I don't know the idea. I think zombies are calling me, so I think I might do some zombie painting. But yeah, I think that's enough of the post-ramble. I haven't really got much else to say. Until next time we're together, keep painting.